Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
The Clinton Foundation, Apax Partners, the Islamic Circle of North America, Osama bin Laden, Grameen America, Shore Bank. While all of these might seem as if they're random, unconnected entities, what if in fact they were all connected?
There's a 5-step process. Step 1 is know your goals. Know what you're going after. You could have almost anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. And so you have to prioritize, and you move in that direction. On the way to your goals, you're going to encounter your problems and your obstacles. So step 2 is understanding your problems and your obstacles, identify them. Step 3 is to diagnose them to get at the root cause of the problem. And that could be many root causes, but it could also be your weaknesses or weaknesses of others, but you have to be objective about them. Once you diagnose them, then you go to step 4, which is to design a way to get around them. And then, after you have that design, you implement that design, so you have to follow through and do it. And you do that, and that will then produce its new results, which should be better results. I call this kind of the looping process. It's the evolutionary looping process. And you just keep doing that, and you learn over a period of time, and you move in the direction that you want.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Patrick in the chair. And what you just heard there was a gentleman by the name of Ray Dalio talking about his idea of how to achieve success. Whew. Welcome back. We are going into episode 5 with B as we break down the mind web that is controlling us here in America. That gentleman, Ray Dalio, is part of this web, and we're going to focus in on him today. Last week, we mapped out a whole bunch of shady election players, global finance and progressive tech networks that are moving the pieces on the chessboard around here in America. Whether it's Grameen America, Apax Partners, key players like John McGrew, Ray Dalio, who you just saw, Laura Tyson, Sir Ronald Cohen, the Clinton Foundation, Higher Ground Labs. All these people and organizations are tied together in this massive web that is continuously taking over America. And they're not hiding it anymore. And what we have going on today is we got our man B joining us once again, and we're going to go in and we're going to dissect who Ray Dalio is, his connections, his end goal, right? Ray Dalio was the founder of Bridgewater Associates, right? One of the largest hedge funds ever exist, right? Billions and billions of dollars. What is his end goal here? And how is he tied? That's what we're here to discuss today. This gentleman and his ties to the mind web here in America. And with that, I want to welcome B back. B, welcome.
Hey, Patrick, thanks for having me back, man. It was a good introduction to Ray Dalio and some of his network. We'll be seeing some familiar names today, of course, as we go on to the different nodes on the mind map, and we'll be changing up the format a little bit today. In reading a Substack article I actually wrote on some of Ray's connections, very seedy connections, when I say so myself, but that's for anyone's discretion to arrive at the end of this episode. So
fair.
Yeah, with that, I appreciate you for having me back, man. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Always a pleasure. And before we get real deep dive, let's put up this mind map again. Let's refresh it so everyone can see it, because this thing is ever evolving. It's deep, man. It is massive overlay. It looks like it's too much to absorb, but these people and organizations are not that farly separated from each other. If you look up to the top corner here, you've done great work on this, by the way. Everyone needs to understand, B has put this together. All documents are attached to the mind map, right? So this isn't hypothesis, this isn't guessing around, right? This is all connected by your research, correct, B?
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. I did all of this, put the hyperlinks in there as well. So I'm not just creating this, but there's, believe it or not, there's not even 300 points here, 300 different entities. So it looks like this large morass, but in truth, it's a rather small community. So, and again, these aren't all the players I've left. I haven't gotten to some folks yet, and others will be coming soon. And it's kind of ever evolving. So I try and go back and put more information in there as it evolves. So
we appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that. I know our viewers appreciate that. I got some buddies that are now tuning into this, and they're just, wow, dude, you're in this world. You get to hear this. I said, yeah, man. And they're opening up to it. So the more we keep getting the message out there, just showing people, not forcing it, but actually, hey, this is legitimately happening. If you actually want to take the time, watch this, hit the links, follow along, you could actually peel back the layers of what's going on in America, and you can understand what's going on in America when you see what you see going on in the streets and how these facets are tied to some of the shock troops on the streets. But man, this stuff is completely fascinating, and thank you so much for doing this work, because without this information out there, because Americans, let's be honest, we like to have things quick, easy, and simple. And when you try and unpack something like this, it's hard to make it quick, easy, and simple. But given this visualization here, I think it gives the American people a glimpse of just, hey, this can be understood, and there are real players. We don't have to talk in the abstract. These are legitimate people and organizations that are all interconnected, and we're naming them here and how they're impacting us here in America. So truly, dude, thank you so much for the work you're doing on this. And with Ray, if you guys take a look up here on the top of the map here, B has him outlined on the perimeter. Ray's up here, and if you take a look, he's connected to John McGrew, who we covered last episode. He's connected to Grameen America, which we covered last week. We've covered the Clinton Foundation, the beginning of the series here with B, and he's also connected to this other group, the MTN group. But B, take it away on Ray.
Yeah, so just with these four connections up here, I know that doesn't look like much, but he's partners with John McGrew over at Bridgewater Associates. Grameen America, he actually has multiple philanthropic ventures with them. He's very closely affiliated with the board of directors at Grameen America, as well as the Clinton Foundation. He basically has like a whole philanthropic initiative set up, which almost goes solely to the Democratic apparatus. But you'll notice one up there, it's called MTN Group. And within my article, we'll be going into a little bit more about the MTN Group and who they are and what their relationship is and all this. But in their terrorist connections, which are also illustrated on this mind map. So with that, I think we can go ahead and get into the article, and let's kick it off with Ray's little tweet, his temper tantrum, which was really the impetus for me writing this article. If you guys want to pull that up, it's linked in the Substack.
There you go. I believe that's the tweet right there. It's official.
Yep, that's the one.
The world order has broken down.
Yep, and in this article, he basically claims, that this is just the decline of the West. And if anyone wants to read it for himself, I'm not going to sit there and read it all. But most of it's just blabbering. But a lot of it actually stems from his book, which I reference in the article. So if anyone wants to take time to read that, it is linked in my article. You guys can go there, or you can go directly to Dalio's profile and read it yourself. I didn't find it very interesting. It was pretty boring to me, but I'm kind of familiar with Dalio's position on this stuff. So don't take my word for it. But yeah, with that, if we can just get back over to the Substack and just go from there, I can kind of explain everything as we go along. We can read the article on here with all the links to it. I titled this "Raise Rolodex of Revolutionaries" because that's honestly what it is. He's got a whole Rolodex full of very nefarious actors within his portfolio and some of his connections as well. So if we scroll down here, we can actually see in the first photo, just to give you an idea of how important Ray is in the grand scheme of things. This is a photo of him meeting with Wang Qishan, and you'll see it says Bridgewater here because that's his firm he started, which John McGrew also plays a leadership role in as well. They've had various interactions throughout decades, so they're definitely very close. And for those of you who don't remember, John McGrew also affiliated with Grameen America and Apax Partners. So with that, I will begin to read the article. Ray Dalio, a self-proclaimed politically moderate extraordinaire, recently authored a post praising his, quote, "I told you so, the world is falling," snippets from his 2021 book, The Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. The argument as whether or not Dalio created a knockoff version of Strauss-Howe or other generational theories is a conversation for another day. In his tirade, Dalio ironically places the blame squarely on the shoulders of President Trump for what many on the left have actually called for, the transition to a multipolar world order. Now that the realpolitik train has left Grand Central Station with Dalio hitching a ride in first class, let's explore a small sample pool of his associations. Editorial note: for the sake of brevity and due to the risk of information saturation, this article will explore only a few examples of some of Dalio's connections from the financial and ownership connections. If a word or phrase is underlined, this means there's a hyperlinked source for everyone to use as a citation. We'll see here the China Global Philanthropy Institute is hyperlinked in the article if anyone wants to explore that institute. Dalio has a long history in China. You can also read about his history, again, by clicking the hyperlink within the article. And you can see on screen, this is the China Global Philanthropy Institute. This was the source I used to garner the information about this specific institute. And there will be more interesting connections about this institute as the article goes along. So if we can get back to the article and just carry on with it. Dalio has a long history in China. He is one of the key figures in the development of the CGPI alongside Bill Gates and Communist Party of China, CCP leadership. The philanthropic nature of the institute drives the headline printed about the CGPI, plural, but its true nature is much more nefarious and subversive. Right around the same time as Gates and Dalio began to advise senior party officials, such as Ma Weiwei, the 12th National People's Congress, the NPC, from 2013 to 2018, began to revise how non-governmental organizations operate domestically and prepared recommendations for the 13th NPC. They began preparing recommendations for the 13th NPC. Now, these screenshots we see here, these images are from those directives. These are translated into English, transcribed in this case, Accordingly, the decisive push for the ONGO outside non-governmental organization law, a draft of which was first circulated for public comment in mid-2015, came from the National Security Commission, which was being advised by who? Dalio and Bill Gates. One among various high-powered organizations created at the CCP headquarters in 2013 and chaired personally by Z. This was despite the fact that more moderate pilot regulations on INGO management had been experimented with at the provincial level. The origin of the national law in top security circles explains why regulatory competence for INGOs was transferred from the Ministry of Civil Affairs, responsible for supervising the domestic third sector, to the MPS and lower level public security bureaus. With the enactment of the ONGO law, international nonprofit organizations are now formally overseen by police authorities, clearly indicating the securitization of China's policy towards international civil society. Now, mind you, all this transpired while Gates and Dalio were advising top-level CCP officials on ONGOs, on philanthropic organizations. We get even more clarification in the second screenshot here. The second image. What have received less attention are the carrots being offered to civil society. These come in the form of high-level recognition and support for civil society as redefined by the party. In his analysis of the 19th Congress report, Wang Xinyao, Dean of the China Philanthropy Research Institute at Beijing Normal University and a former Ministry of Civil Affairs official, was heartened that the report recognized the role of social organizations, the party's term for civil society organizations, and their role in building social governance and socialist consultative democracy. These concepts call for civil society to play a consultative role in strengthening community self-governance and mechanisms for resolving social tensions, with the precondition that this consultation happens under the party's leadership. In addition, the 2016 charity law and other regulations, which open up opportunities for public fundraising, charitable trusts, and government contracting, are providing a large infusion of domestic financing to qualified civil society organizations. This is particularly true for those organizations working on government priorities. These priorities include poverty alleviation domestically and Belt and Road initiatives internationally. Okay, so we understand now that they are not only securitizing the NGO framework using law in China, but they're doing this to prioritize the Belt and Road Initiative, which is a direct competition to U.S. policy. And they're doing this while being advised by Ray Dalio. All right, so we understand this connection here. Now we go down here, we can also see from the China Research Center how they redefine civil society. Civil society. While many praise the proposed economic reform measures, Chapter 13 of the resolution contains language that is innovative and even revolutionary in the context of CCP leaders who see any call related to expanding civil society as subversive and an evil plan cooked in the hallways of the U.S. State Department and bunkers of the Pentagon. This part of the resolution does begin by saying social governance reforms will be conducted under the leadership of CCP committees and government agencies at all levels. But this is followed by a few paragraphs that rarely appear in CCP's societal governing circles. And you can read the rest of that report for yourself. So what that's saying is they understood previously that these ONGOs, these outside NGOs, were being manipulated by the State Department, being controlled rather by the State Department and the Central Intelligence Agency and the U.S. security apparatus writ large to subvert China. And now all of a sudden, Dalio comes along, starts consulting with senior leadership officials, while Dalio is also heavily invested in the NGO apparatus in China. And he goes in there, and all of a sudden they begin to change the way that they operate with these NGOs, begin to change how they monitor them, because they understand that these are national security risks now. Just so conveniently happens same time as Dalio is consulting with them. So that was part of my reasoning as to why I put that in there. Now here's where it gets interesting. Continuing on. True to CCP form, the address for the CGPI in Shenzhen reveals the institute also shares the same building as AEE Shenzhen Aviation, which has been sanctioned and is listed on the entity listing. Again, you can see a screenshot of it right here. The first one, these are actually two separate ones. The red one you see up top, and then below is a screenshot of the sanctions. So if you click on the entity listing itself, that will take you to the Federal Register, which discusses these sanctions for the AEE. And these are in the same building. So understand this in context. Ray Dalio, his institute he started in China, shares the same building as a sanctioned CCP national security institute, organization, let's call it. So that in itself should also raise some serious red flags about some of his interminglings occurring in China. But if we get back to the article, carrying on, we'll explore a little bit more of those relationships. So, Mr. Producer, if we could please scroll down a little bit, and let's get reading on this other paragraph. Dalio's interests in China aren't solely philanthropic. His firm, Bridgewater Associates, has been one of the leading investors in China under Dalio's leadership. Bridgewater's portfolio included a large stake in Alibaba. Yes, of course, going back there to John McGrew, you'll see his photo down there. Bridgewater's portfolio included a large stake in Alibaba, which owns Ant Financial. We'll get back to Ant Financial and their terrorist funding as this article continues. Another rather peculiar dynamic is the fact that Bridgewater's exit from the Chinese market coincided with Dalio's role at Bridgewater ending. Literally, almost as soon as Ray Dalio left Bridgewater, they completely exited the Chinese market. Okay? So rather interesting timing there. Bridgewater Associates also has a close professional relationship with Apax Partners. Again, we've talked about them ad nauseum on here before. A PE firm founded by progressive donor and Democrat Alan Patrikoff. Patrikoff has served previously with the Clinton and Obama administrations in various capacities. Also on the board is John McGrew, who is also the co-chairman of Grameen America and Bridges Ventures. As we can see, both McGrew and Apax are also affiliated with Bridges Ventures. And again, you can read this image of John McGrew's bio. And if we scroll down a little bit more, compliments of the company's house archives, we can actually see just how closely affiliated Bridges Ventures are with Apax. So again, carrying on, Apax Partners has a portfolio which dominates the progressive activist machine. We keep scrolling down a little bit more to get to that. And we've talked about Apax and this next character, frequently before. We did a whole show on him. Neville Roy Singham, who lives in Shanghai and actively operates on behalf of the CCP, created ThoughtWorks and sold it twice to Apax, not once, but twice, when they went public. ThoughtWorks is the machine which created NGP-VAN, the National Voter ID Database. And again, all of this stuff is hyperlinked in here. We can actually see this image from Apax's website of some of the services their clients provide through their portfolio. Salsa Labs, which is now known as Bonterra, and you have NGP-VAN. Action Kit and Mobilize, which are rolled up under NGP-VAN, are major tools which progressives use for organizing. This includes anything from campaigns to actual physical protests. As a matter of fact, Mobilize typically requires a login. Most of the organizations have their own unique login, which use it. However, I've been lucky enough to gain access through one particular organization which did not close the back door. Again, they just didn't have a login platform. Nothing illegal or nefarious in that regard. But as we can see here, this other screenshot is an actual excerpt. One of the very few times I'll actually use Wikipedia for something, but the information was probably the most concise here. It was all legitimate, but this just gives you an idea as to what these entities do. Quote, in the last 4 days of the 2020 United States elections, 551,000 volunteers worked more than 1 million shifts through the Mobilize platform, and the platform had been used by a total of more than 4 million volunteers. In late November 2020, Mobilize was acquired by EveryAction, the parent company of NGP-VAN. The price of the acquisition was not disclosed, and the platform continued to operate as a unit led by Johnson. Johnson left the company, the former boss, left the company in 2021 to join the Biden administration as the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Department of the Treasury. In November 2021, Apax Partners acquired Mobilize's parent, NGP-VAN, in a $2 billion deal. Apax created a subsidiary, Bonterra, to oversee the company. In the summer of 2024, technicians from Kamala Harris worked to fix technical problems with the site, which were highlighted in the 2024 presidential election. The company also hosted maps for the hands-off protest. And that just to give the listener an idea about some of the members of the portfolio, the clients in the portfolio, of some of their activities and their relationship with political entities. You know, one of the executives joins the Biden administration after he helps them steal the 2020 election.
Yeah.
Carrying on.
All sided one way, by the way. Everything is politically aligned one way here.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything.
Correct. If any Republican entity did this, they would be, they would be screaming it from a hilltop.
Yeah.
There would be no rest.
What's the draw to China for these people? Why does it seem our wealthy and our political elite always flock to China? The world's a big place, many different countries, a lot of good ideas all over the world. Why China? It seemingly seems to be every single time.
Convenience, political expedience, financial gain, discontent with the status quo. There's a myriad of reasons behind it, but cheap in China was kind of the start of that. But a lot of this, let's say, rapprochement with China began all the way back in the 70s. I mean, they've been trying to get China into the world market for a while, even though they weren't granted accession to the WTO until 2002. Even Nixon tried to open them up economically. very naively, might I say as well.
But
you know,
that's the thing. Is it naive though? Like what Nixon did, getting China going. Like, is it stupidity or was it willful ignorance? Just like with our politicians and our rich class today that keep going over to China. Are they dumb or is it just willful ignorance? What they know, which is what they know what they're going to get out of China, but they don't care because they're just simply lining their own pockets. And if that means selling out the American people, so be it.
well, I mean, Nixon wasn't exactly on the establishment side of the political spectrum.
True.
So he was very much an outsider. So maybe he was genuine about it. Um, you know, maybe he was, you know, hawkish in some regards, but he was definitely very much open to the thought of China opening up to the world economy. And a lot of this actually dictated events which occurred in South Asia, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. And, you know, that's a conversation for another day. But,
Fair, brother. Fair.
Yeah, I think with this we can get back to the Cold War angle because a lot of his decisions too were also based around, you know, the bipolar order, as they say, the geopolitical environment of the Cold War. And with that, that's probably a perfect segue to get into Patricia Clarity. She was the first associate hired by Patrikoff and was even handpicked by Bill Clinton to lead the U.S.-Russia Investment Fund after the end of the Cold War. And again, these are all linked. You can read this for yourself. Delta Capital Management, the firm born out of the U.S.-Russia Investment Fund set up by President Bill Clinton's administration, has moved into a new phase on the back of Russia's stability to capture pickings from an unexploited market. Patricia Clarity, a founder of Apax Partners, has taken over from David Jones as chief executive after the board elected to have, quote, a more seasoned person, end quote, in charge. She was chosen by the former U.S. president to start the $444 million fund in 1995 while she was still working at Apax. So keep this in mind, that we were responsible for the economic redevelopment of post-Soviet Russia. We dumped hundreds of millions of, actually billions of dollars into Russia, and a lot of Western businessmen eventually stood up entities because it was cheap at the time. You know, after the Soviet Union had collapsed, and they were just riddled with, you know, a ton of resources. So anyways, just to kind of explain that. So with that, we can kind of go on a little bit farther in the article and discuss some more of these connections. Dalio and Apax share another partner with an even more troublesome history than the CGPI. Grameen America is an offshoot of Grameen Bank, which was founded by Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh. Grameen specializes in microfinance schemes, which has led to accusations of organ harvesting, again linked to the article in there. Within this same annual finance report, we can also see that Sir Ronald Cohen's Soros and Hamas-affiliated Portland Trust is also affiliated philanthropically to Grameen and Apax. Again, you see Grameen America right there, and just a few spots down, you'll see the Portland Trust as well. And this comes from Apax UK's charity documentation. So again, this is just another interconnected node. And the Portland Trust was responsible at one point for leading the Palestinian redevelopment. Now, this is another, you know, probably a whole nother show going into that and those connections, but it was ultimately a Portland Trust director, executive, who was linked to the funding of Hamas tunnels under the Gaza industrial estate. And this is an active, ongoing lawsuit. And the defendant in the case has actually absconded. He's on the lam. So A lot more to come in that. And again, we got to do a whole nother episode on that one probably. But again, as we continue going down, we'll see another image which describes a little bit in detail this relationship. Just talking about Grameen and Apax going back to 2009. And the fact that a senior member of Apax Partners serves on Grameen America's National Advisory Board. But again, everything's linked, source for yourself so you all can read it. So, well, if we can go back up a little bit, Mr. Producer, to the paragraph. All right. One initiative of Grameen was a creation of the Grameen Jamil Foundation. The organization, while presenting as a humanitarian cause, is named after Abdul Latif Jamil. Jamil family are prominent Saudi businessmen who were named in multiple terrorism lawsuits related to 9/11 after the DOJ announced the discovery of their name in the Golden Chain files in Bosnia. And again, we can go down, we can see excerpts from both lawsuits as well as articles. This image is actually an excerpt from a lawsuit which was filed against them. Quote, Saudi billionaire who helped build one of Britain's biggest car dealerships is being sued by the families of the victims of the September 11th attacks. Yusuf Jamil, whose family firm bought the British business Hartwell in 1990, is named in papers claiming more than $1 trillion in damages from defendants accused of helping to fund Osama bin Laden and his al-Qaeda network, end quote. You can read the rest of it again when you preview the article. So if we scroll down and keep reading the actual text of the article, we can go down a little bit. Another avenue in which Grameen has been accused of abetting terrorism comes through Yunus's associations with Jamaat-e-Islami, a jihadist group formed in 1941 by Maulana Maududi. Yunus conducted the 2024 Dhaka coup in a coalition with the JEI, which was then a banned political party at the time. The JEI has two militant branches, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen. Both these entities are sanctioned, and again, you can click on the link to find the sanctions, but for the sake of brevity and time, we'll just keep going. And you can see this is a screenshot and image of the actual sanction itself. 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was arrested in Rawalpindi in 2003 at the home of a Jamaat leader. These terrorist organizations have multiple historical connections with al-Qaeda and the Taliban, but those will be the subject of another article. Believe it or not, these are not Grameen's, and by extension, Dalio's only connections to terrorism. And to that point, we've talked about a lot of these terrorist entities before, Patrick, and their relationships to ICNA, Sophia Farouk. These are all just the same beasts rearing their heads with a different mask on. So that's one thing to consider when looking at that map and those relationships. So if we continue on in the text, Grameen Phone is an offshoot of Grameen Bank and was founded by the Qadir brothers. The Qadir brothers, Iqbal and Kamal, one of whom is currently a senior fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School, created the architecture for Grameen Phone and built other entities such as Cellbazaar. The company now shares ownership with Telenor, a Norwegian telecom company which has its own fair share of connections to terrorism. The brothers also created, alongside Alibaba, CCP, and Ant Financial, and the Gates Foundation, a fintech application named Bcash. The app has been implicated in terror finance cases as supporting the Islamic State. Again, sources are included in the hyperlink. This is an image screenshot of one of those sources. And in there, you just read about the relationship, Bcash, and how they came to be. It's important to note that Bassar Masri, who is, again, the one who's on the lam for the Palestinian redevelopment Gaza Industrial State lawsuit, was also a senior official at Harvard University and had to resign from the Dean's Council. So again, Harvard University, Oxford University, which we have also discussed ad nauseum, are really kind of parasitic hosts to some of these terrorist entities. So again, everything's sourced right there. And if we keep scrolling down, we'll actually see another one of these sources, which came from a national security document. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but in Malaysia, they discovered that mobile payment applications such as Touch and Go and Bcash were used to collect funds for the terror group, which were then reportedly channeled to Islamic State networks in Syria and Bangladesh. Again, sources in the links, and this is an actual photo of the source itself. Now, if we continue scrolling down, we'll see just a little bit more of law enforcement's relationship with Bcash. The the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC, has also investigated Dalio's friends at Bcash. As we can see here, the headline, ACC investigated Bcash Rocket over money laundering and terror financing charges. Continuing on, another curiously intersecting node in this map is MTN Group, as we discussed at the onset of the show. Telenor, which partially owns Grameen Phone, and the MTN Group, which is partly controlled by the Hezbollah-supporting Makati M1 Group, have colluded previously to skirt sanctions in Myanmar after the 2021 junta. We stop right there for 1 second. It's also worth noting that the M1 Group is also business partners with Bashar Masri, who I just discussed, who is being sued and has since absconded for financing Hamas's construction of the tunnels underneath the Gaza industrial estate. So again, these same people are all just showing up in different transactions, but it's the same actors, right? So if we go down, again, just a more resources to understand the nefarious nature of Telenor Myanmar, which seems kind of weird, a Norwegian telecom company partaking in these activities. But we'll get to them a little bit later on down the road as we continue to discuss MTN. So if we come to this second image, Mr. Producer, and stop there, it's probably good to read out a portion of this. Quote, MTN has an alarming track record when it comes to fulfilling their human rights responsibilities. A 2019 ranking of digital rights noted that MTN lacked strong governance and oversight over human rights issues and disclosed almost nothing about policies affecting freedom of expression. And again, they go into the details of some of these transactions in earlier parts of it. As a key investor in MTN, the Makatis are tainted by MTN's business conduct, which includes allegations of paying protection money to the Taliban in Afghanistan, paying bribes to enter Iran with legal proceedings ongoing in South Africa, and violating U.S. sanctions. You see, as we'll see here a little bit later in this report, MTN is currently being investigated by the U.S. authorities, and we'll discover that context as we go on in this report. Back to the text, Dalio also has other connections directly to MTN via MTN Ghana and UAC Nigeria, which share multiple Bridgewater and affiliated directors. These are just a few of the examples of these of this relationship. You can see Mr. Toriola right there on the board of UACN, also MTN. Shareholders, you'll see right there, Dalio Property Development Limited. Again, these are just images taken from source material, which is all linked in this report. All right. So carrying on, while skirting sanctions in Myanmar is one thing, MTN Group also managed Ericsson's infrastructure in Iraq and Afghanistan. During the global war on terror, both MTN and Ericsson paid millions of dollars to ISIS, al-Qaeda, and the Taliban as a bribe to not only leave their equipment undamaged, if we can stop right there, Mr. Producer, but to also pay ransoms for kidnapped employees and aid and abet terrorists. Again, these are all hyperlinked. You can read the sources for yourself. As a matter of fact, MTN sold their footprint in Afghanistan to the aforementioned Hezbollah-affiliated M1 group, which is owned by the Makati family, who is, again, Lebanese leadership. MTN was forced to admit the DOJ's investigation into MTN in their Q3 2025 report. And if we see this image, this is an actual screenshot and image of that report. Updates on significant regulatory and legal considerations. Update on Anti-Terrorism Act, ATA litigation. Long complaint. The long complaint was filed on 28 July 2023 on behalf of 4 additional plaintiffs who were not previously included in the other ATA cases and contains the same core allegations. MTN has filed its motion to dismiss Syria-related claims in the long complaint. On 25 September 2025, the court ruled in favor of MTN and dismissed the Syria-related claims. Not entirely, might I add, because they're also still being charged in Iraq and Afghanistan as well. The proceedings will, therefore, now continue only in relation to the claims that have not been dismissed, which primarily relate to MTN's former subsidiary in Afghanistan and its minority, non-controlling investment in Iran. MTN has deep sympathy for those who have been, whatever. I'm not going to read those crocodile tears. And we go on to the lawsuit. Now, look at these line items. Number 1,274, 1,275. I chose these because I wanted to illustrate just how many claims there are against them in this lawsuit. There are many other mentions of these same entities, both before and after, but I wanted to just use ones that are kind of buried in the middle of the show, just how detailed this is. So 1274, each of MTN Group, Iran Cell, Fatuma Neklo, and Irene Charnley, MTN Group, Iran Cell, specifically intended to grow the overall global market for illicit American manufactured mobile phones that were originally sold in the U.S. marketplace because they shared the goal of the conspiracy, which was to finance, arm, and logistically support Hezbollah, the Quds Force, and regular IRGC. Each of MTN Group, Iran Cell, again, spirit with the terrorists, including but not limited to Hezbollah, the Quds Force, regular IRGC, as well as the IRGC syndicate terrorist proxy, Jaish al-Mahdi, including its special groups, Asaib al-Haq and Katab Hezbollah, all of whom received weapons, funding, and training from the IRGC. Page 318 of the docket. Continuing on, as if that weren't enough, MTN also co-owns Iran Cell alongside the sanctioned Iran Electronics Industries and the Bonyad Mustazafan Foundation, which was created by the Ayatollah. And again, we see some of this ownership structure here. MTN Iran Cell, 51% owned by Iran Electronics Industries and the Mustazafan Foundation. Guess who owns the other 49%? MTN. So, again, you can just read more along this.
They just skirt around and they just keep pushing. It's amazing, dude. Sorry, I'm just taking all this in as you're going through it, and it's kind of infuriating to...
Yeah, I know. And this isn't meant to blackpill everyone. This is just, I'm trying to...
No, dude, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying this is, people aren't familiar with these entities, with these relationships. People are used to the usual suspects, the Rothschilds and the Soros of the world, and, these guys they're very much involved with this. As a matter of fact, again, going back to Bashar Masri, one of his partners in the Palestinian redevelopment alongside Pataco Holdings was George Soros in the Open Economic Fund. Sir Ronald Cohen actually opened up Capital Partners alongside Sir Jacob Rothschild. Well, they're shareholders. They were up until his death in 2024, in which Rothschild estate took over. But they're co-shareholders, the majority shareholders in the same PE firm. So again, these people are all connected. This is just tough.
And they just keep going. And like, if I don't pay my taxes for 3 months, the government's coming to lock my ass up. So like, I have trouble just digesting all this, seeing the damage these people are doing to what's going on here in America, and they're not being held accountable. It's just, I'm just flushing it out right now with you, brother. Sorry.
No, it's fine. A lot of these cases are dismissed because the judge just basically rules that there's no jurisdiction there, for these foreign terrorist entities. These judges just rule it out. Okay, motion to dismiss is granted due to a lack of jurisdiction. And that's really how a lot of people in relation to 9/11 skirted by. But this is to kind of help people understand, what to look for and where to find this information. That's why sourcing and citations are so incredibly important with this information. This isn't trust me, bro.
Right.
This is fact-based evidence.
Right.
These are screenshots. What the screenshots in here are images from various different repositories or OSINT tools. If we go back to this, just kind of wrap it up because we're getting to the end of the article. You can see on the screen here the actual sanctioned entities, Iran Electronics Industries, and their relationship they have with MTN. And I'm not done with MTN. We're gonna scroll down a little bit more because we're gonna end on a bit of a whopper here. So, Iran's digital platform for terrorism, how MTN Iran cell enables Iran's plot to assassinate President Trump. And this is from the National Security Review. This isn't trust me, bro. These are subject matter experts with very, very extensive credentials. You can read the report for yourself on the link right there. It's very long, so for the sake of brevity, we're not going to do it here. But MTN is also an investigation by the DOJ for their involvement in Iran's attempts to assassinate President Trump. While there is certainly more dirt to discuss when it comes to Dalio, such as his ties to Epstein and the Maxwell clan, Isabel, Ghislaine's twin, was a longtime executive for both Grameen and Apax, but that's another story. The scope of this article is narrowed primarily to the financial and ownership angles, as opposed to Dalio's personal relationships. Perhaps Dalio should consider the fact that he is the one who has done catastrophic damage to the international community, not President Trump. Dalio's darlings of Marxism, war, jihad, revolutions, and long blood trails. The end.
Well done, my friend. And that closing is very much on point. And if you're in tune to what's going on in America, we're basically there on all facets. Even some blood in the streets, not on the daily civil war, everyone's fighting it out, but provoking interactions between law enforcement and citizens that have ended in bloodshed is by design.
Right.
I believe. They are ratcheting up.
Oh, it 100% is. Yeah.
Yep. They ratchet up.
We've discussed Canvas before.
They just again. Sorry, man. Go ahead. It's hard when you're not here.
Keep going. It's all good, man. It's that
But yeah.
connection.
It is, man. And just thank you so much for putting this all together. I hope our viewers take the time to actually read this, look through it. We will post this article on our social sites so you guys could access the Substack and dig into it on your own, go through all those hyperlinks, because the documentation is important and it's going to take you multiple hours. So just be prepared, or multiple days. It's not just a quick, I'm going to read and digest. If you really fully want to understand it, it's going to take some time.
Yeah, and again, also feel free to use the graph, which is publicly available. You know, anyone can use it. You can't manipulate it. Only I can do that. But use that as a tool. You know, I was able to bang this article out. I basically wrote this article from start to finish in about 3.5 hours, because I basically already had the sourcing done. I just had to construct it and link everything. But yeah, if you guys want to, just feel free to follow me on my Substack. It's just, the moniker's Dante, but it's at Scrivorium. That's SCRIVORIUM. Or you can also follow me on X, and my handle on X is at Dante XXXIIGOD. Again, Roman numeral 32, but that's an allusion to the 32nd canto of the Divine Comedy. So if anyone's wondering where I got that one from, you guys can find me on X. Yep, that's me.
There it is, and we will be dropping these on our socials when we start publishing clips and when we're going to air this. So stay tuned, guys. Follow along. But that was a great deep dive into Ray Dalio and what he's been up to, as not that different than other of his billionaire friends, and using these NGOs and shell companies to just keep marching along to their own beat and their own drum. As us here in America, just sit by and just keep on, right? But B, thank you so much, man. Any advice or words of encouragement for our viewers? What do you got for them?
Yeah, I mean, just keep the faith, keep the positivity. Don't take the black pill. I know I present a lot of information, and a lot of people tell me they don't understand how I'm really still optimistic about everything. But I'm actually very much a white pill person. I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and I would highly encourage everyone to think critically, interpret and understand what people are actually, what someone's actually reading, and take the time to investigate it, and just don't take it at face value. I mean, there's so much just bad information out there, which also silos the good information. So just think critically, pay your taxes. Don't get pissed off about it. I mean, as much of a, kind of more on the libertarian side of things as I'm about it, it's important to, stay within the framework, color within the lines, which these people are exceptionally well balanced at doing, or well.
Yeah, they are. They know what they're doing, man. They know how to use our system. They know how to use our system against us, wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it goes back to what President Trump said. And Dave Chappelle even made the comment about it. About I know the system exists because I've used it.
There you go. And there's one other guy, George Carlin, old comic. There's a club and you ain't in it, and these guys are operating as so. Right? Like they're in the club, we ain't in it, and they're just pushing along. So the more you stay informed, the more you know, the best you can do to kind of stay out of that enclosure they're trying to throw around us. Right? Like just stay informed, stay in tune, and stay active.
Yeah, and I can also say this too. There is genuine interest in these issues within some of the institutions. And I'm not saying that the federal government doesn't have its fair share of problems, but there are still good people on the inside who are trying to do the right thing. And so it's important for people to just keep the faith with that and, do their part, present this information. This information is It's recondite. It's not that it's closed source, that it's classified, secret, whatever. It's just buried. So if we can excavate all this crap to the top, to the surface, that'll make life a lot easier for people. And journalists, I would actually implore them to do the same. They have a moral obligation to report on fact-based evidence, not their opinions, not what's trending. Just stick to the facts, present the connections, and don't have an agenda.
Fair. And then we can get some headway done. And us as citizens, remind yourselves what it does it mean to be a citizen. Part of it is to be an informed populace, to know what's going on in your country, and then to inform others so that we are not this mass wave of uninformed, unintelligent beings out there that are just going to get walloped over the head day in and day out, right? So we have responsibilities as citizens to do this, to know about it, to share the information, to put up resistance to it. America, we were born with resistance. It's in our blood. It's in our DNA. Just got to keep on fighting, no matter how hard it gets. Because once we go, dude, the rest of the world's going to go. Hands down. That's just one guy's
Couldn't have said it better myself, man.
Thanks, man. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you next time. B, always a pleasure, dude. We'll be in touch. Until then, stay informed, everyone. Do your research. Be an active citizen. Have a good night.
Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
The Clinton Foundation, Apax Partners, the Islamic Circle of North America, Osama bin Laden, Grameen America, Shore Bank. While all of these might seem as if they're random, unconnected entities, what if in fact they were all connected?
I am delighted to announce that I am naming Ramzi Kassem as Chief Counsel. Ramzi will be joining the administration from CUNY, where he serves as a professor of law. Government service is no novel concept for Ramzi, who served as a senior policy advisor for President Biden from 2022 to 2024, and has deep experience arguing in court, including before the Supreme Court. I will turn to Ramzi for his remarkable experience and his commitment to defending those too often abandoned by our legal system. City Hall will be stronger with him in it, and our work of building a more prosperous city for all will have a powerful advocate. My sincere hope is that New Yorkers who have long felt on the margins of this city, the homeless veteran straining to survive, the patient searching for the care that they need, an immigrant trying to get by, will feel that they now have leaders in their corner who understand their struggles and care to fight for them. That is the city I want to build, the prosperity I intend to deliver, and the leadership that has too long been lacking. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our special of the Infiltration of America with B. What you just saw there is Zohran Mamdani, mayor of New York City, installing a former defender of al-Qaeda terrorist as the head of his legal counsel in New York. That's what the infiltration of America looks like. This is what's happening, where Americans are put to the side and radical agendas through infiltration are taking over America. That's where we are in 2026. 25 years post 9/11. Never thought we would be here. But it is the complete infiltration of America on all different levels, local, state, federal. And the American people are held hostage to this system, this web that control our everyday lives. The takeover of America from within is by special interests, big money. And it's all backed and looking to implement anti-American beliefs to radically change the country that we know and love. And it happens every day. And it's not random. If you've been following us, you know this is not random, one off here, one off there. This is a coordinated event that is taking place in America over years and years and years. And it keeps building momentum. And what we're doing on this show is trying to spread awareness to the community, to us Americans, what's really going on, and prove that this is not an isolationist incident in one city here, one city there, but rather a collective move to overthrow America from within. And that's the point of our series with B, is to expose all of this. We've spoken about people that are play. Everyone knows Soros, right? Everyone hears those big name, Clinton Foundation, but we also have spoken about Sir Ronald Cohen, Alan Patricof, other names, right? Other groups, ICNA, Democratic Socialists of America, right? These are not all random groups. They are working in coordination with one another to overthrow America. And we are sitting here watching it firsthand with front row seats. It's an all-out war. It's an all-out war on America. The shell companies, organizations continuously attack America, branded systemically racist, while they infiltrate our borders with third world refugees that look to take over America. That's where we are. And with that, I want to welcome back our man, B. B, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Pleasure to be back with you guys. And I've enjoyed this series so far, and I hope it's been informative, and people have been able to garner a lot of information from it. That was an excellent opening segment there, and I would just like to point out that Ramzi Kassem.
Can we show a picture of him, Austin? Let's put a picture of him up. There he is.
Yes, one of his clients was an al-Qaeda operative who was ironically actually related to one of the 9/11 hijackers. So here we are, as you said, 25 years later, to commemorate the 25th anniversary of 9/11. The Chief Counsel for the Mayor's Office of New York City will be helmed by an al-Qaeda lawyer who literally represented family members of the terrorists who conducted 9/11.
Crazy, man. That 25 years, that happens. Within 25 years, that has happened. That's quick. That is way fast. And then if you think about it, how do you think the veterans and those that lost family members on that day, what's their take on this? What do you perceive there, or do you know anyone that is seeing this and has those connections to New York and they're like, whoa, what's your take on all this?
Actually, I think there's quite a few people who are giving this a lot of pause. There's been quite a few veterans, particularly within the NYPD, which immediately following 9/11 had one of the best intelligence units for a law enforcement entity. The FBI actually went to them a lot of the time for these jihadist activities. And I think a lot of them, not just in the military, but within, civil service as well, are, becoming aware and growing more and more discomforted by what they're seeing.
Yeah, they're growing discomforted, but what's being done about it, to me, is the real question, because everywhere I look, I see this now because I've become informed, right? Like, I'm working in the space, I meet with you, I do my own research when I have time. It doesn't seem like there's really any resistance to any of this occurring with the infiltration of America. It seems to be actually encouraged because there's money to be made. So what's the play here?
Well, I think a lot of this goes to, what's everyone talking about? Where's their attention span? What's making the headlines? What's trending on social media? And the fact of the matter is this is just very recondite information. It's not sexy. It's not appealing. It doesn't have this grandiose headline with just one or two or even three of these connections. Really, it doesn't become this, just massive drop of information until you really start to connect dozens of these nodes and see how they intersect. You could say it's analogous to a blob, as Mike Benz would say, but I tend to think it's a bit more anarchic than that, and that it's just it's a network.
And,
And the number one rule of the network is you don't talk about the network, and I think really that's where we're at right now.
and speaking of the network, let's pop on the network on the screen so our viewers can see what you've been working on here. This thing is massive, has definitely grown since the last time we have spoken. A lot more interconnections here. And today what we're going to be honing in on is right here we have Ramzi Kassem, right? And there's his connection to Zohran Mamdani, and then his connection right along into al-Qaeda. And this is infiltrated New York City at its finest. And if you paid attention to Mamdani's rhetoric, political policies, I don't know what you want to call it, but he seems to be going after the white tax base of New York City. Is he not?
No, he certainly is, and it's kind of peculiar. He picked someone from Cooney, and Cooney has a very extensive history with Marxism.
Fun fact, I'm a product of the CUNY system in New York, the City University of New York. I went to Queens College. So I am very familiar with the teachings that come out of that branch. So yeah, they are extremely hardcore leftists in New York City, in the education system, especially Queens College, especially the CUNY system, right? There's multiple schools that operate within the CUNY system. Brooklyn College is another one, College of Staten Island, right? It's the colleges within the boroughs of New York City. Sorry, just keep going. A little fun fact about CUNY for you.
I mean, sometimes anecdotal is the best way to really drive home a point. So that's rather interesting. So you've seen it firsthand, you understand it. But yeah, it's no coincidence that he goes from being a third production assistant on his mother's movie set about an African chess player in Uganda to being mayor of the city which hosts Wall Street, which is the financial hub of the United States, as well as very powerful entities like the SEC, the SDNY, and the EDNY. So
and it's
he didn't
amazing.
get there himself.
No, he's rich too, and he preaches these Marxist socialist garbage. It's fascinating to watch. It really blows my mind when you watch people of privilege that are actually wealthy, that actually have the ability to get things done for them by picking up the phone. It's remarkable to watch those people talk about the injustices of the communities that they're supposedly trying to serve. Because they've made their living in the capitalist society, and now they're just destroying the capitalist society to push a socialist agenda, and then you get the useful idiots down low that listen to this. And it's fascinating to watch is all. I just don't get why people can't connect the dots, that they're being used for a political purpose instead of what our government should be doing, which is protecting our liberties.
I couldn't agree with you more. He goes from, penthouses and castles to the Gracie Mansion, and yet he has the proclivity, shall I say, to think that he can lecture normal people, blue collar workers, even on their lifestyle, their economic choices, how they should live, where their tax dollars should go. It's very narcissistic when you think about it. But he is a stereotypical leftist Marxist politician. He checks all the boxes,
Yeah.
and a lot of that has to do with with his father as well, who we have discussed probably ad nauseum at this point on this particular series. So with Grameen America, I implore all of your viewers to go back and watch that in regards to Grameen America and Mamdani and their ties to al-Qaeda and the Taliban and the Clinton Foundation, etc. So that was a very informative program we did within the series on that. So it's a good refresher.
Yeah, and if our viewers take a look real quick, I'm just hovering over Grameen America now on our mind map, and you can just see the connections that they have here. Grameen Phone, Ray Dalio, which we did a special episode on him alone. John McGrew, Isabel Maxwell, Zohran Mamdani, right? They're part of the web. And then if you go to Mamdani takes you to Kassem, right? So it's all interconnected by one or two nodes. And they're just eroding away at our liberties, pushing their Marxist agenda into full effect. And Mamdani, I must say, he's good at it because he's silky smooth. He's good with his language. He carries himself well. He's a good-looking Middle Eastern man, right? So, like, he checks a lot of the boxes that make him appealing to Americans. Very much like Obama. And we know the damage that Obama did to America with his smooth talk. I feel Mamdani kind of has the same gift. I hate to say it, but he has the same gift of having the ability to sell bullshit because of how smart he sounds. And he's got to be the nice guy first, right? Before they actually ratchet it up, he's got to play nice, doesn't he? Before they get a couple generations into passing down the successorship in the mayor seat in New York, right? He's got to play nice before they really start ratcheting it up on their policies.
I don't think it's playing nice. I think it's people become attuned to what they really are. And in Mamdani's case, I would argue he is far less intellectually capable than Barack Obama, whose mother had a very strong hand in his political formation as well, from a personality standpoint. And he grew up in that whole network as well, probably more entrenched than Mamdani was. But Mamdani, he's went to Bowdoin, which has quite a few connections to our national security apparatus as well. He openly discussed his time with the Muslim Brotherhood, etc. And I think really who was probably largely responsible the most for his political upbringing would actually be the guy whose campaign he first served on when he was 23 years old, fresh out of uni. And that is Ali Najmi, who we will be discussing today.
And let's talk about Ali. Perfect segue. Go into it, brother.
So Ali Najmi is he is one of the co-founders of the Muslim Democratic Club of New York, along with Melinda Sarsour. He is also, coincidentally enough, he is a lawyer who specializes in election law, actually.
You don't say.
And yeah, he's that's one of his fields he covers, even though he works for an ambulance chasing firm right now, which we'll also discuss due to the accusations against them. But understand that Ali Najmi, who is very well connected with ICNA as well, he is effectively now the guy tasked with advising Mamdani as to who to make a judge within the city. So that is an incredibly powerful position, especially given the fact that it's New York. And, the firm he currently works for is actually the subject of basically what amounts to a RICO scandal right now due to just industrial levels of fraud. And if you can, we can just segue into that article and just kind of get a lay of the landscape as to what his firm has been accused of. And, he's tried to distance himself from it, but it's just the damage is basically already done. I'd like to focus on the second to last paragraph here. The lawsuit against Law, filed in Brooklyn federal court last week, alleges that the firm recruited plaintiffs, including illegal immigrants, to fake accidents and injuries. The suit also claims the firm used falsified medical documentation to inflate claims with examples of exaggerating injuries while later being photographed engaging in physical activities. End quote. And there was also accusations of PPP loan violations as well. So these guys were really kind of tapping into all the different various cookie jars there.
So Mamdani's top legal advisor defended al-Qaeda terrorist. And now the gentleman that helps him decide on what judges should be in charge of the New York City court system, his advisor is this guy. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly.
Correct.
So what type of fair shake are Americans looking at getting in New York City right now? Are they looking to, just be nice and just like, hey, we love America, just status quo? Or what's the radical change that is looking at targeting the court system in New York?
Well, first, I think they're going to target it economically. They need to dismantle the economic system, and they'll use the judiciary to do that. And then that's when they're, they'll then pivot to culture and religion, because this is really what Islamists do. And the Marxists have always played along with it. We see what happened in Iran in 1979. Until it's too late for them to realize that they were the useful idiots for the jihadists. So they're going to go after them economically first, and then once that's done, the communists will no longer be of use to the jihadists, and so they will, they'll be dealt with accordingly, just like everyone else. Then it will become cultural, religious. And this is how you get the Ayatollahs of the world, and they are importing it directly into the financial hub of basically the entire world. So New York is going to have a lot of problems, because even if Mamdani is a one-term mayor, he's still going to have his judges who he appointed in there. And, these are chosen by radical jihadists. And they will be, by all accounts, lifetime appointments. I'm not too sure what New York specifically their laws are for the judiciary, but I believe they are lifetime appointments to the bench as well. So, but don't quote me on that.
I hear you, but they're taking foothold. They're taking a huge foothold in New York City. That's a major, that's a sign of war. I don't know what it needs for the American people to wake up, to realize, you got this going on. You got the call to prayer being played in New York City now. I don't know if you've seen any videos of this or not, but mosques have been emboldened now because of the election of their Muslim mayor to start prompting their call to prayer throughout New York City communities 5 times a day. That's just the shot across the bow of we're imposing our culture, we're imposing our will. They've started to do their public gatherings for prayer as well. And then you get the leftists, the commies in New York City, the regular folks like, oh, this is normal, this is great. this is great. They have no idea what they're talking about, do they?
Well, I would think probably the majority of the far leftists in New York are transplants. They immigrated from somewhere else to New York, and they took their policies with them. I think there are a lot of native New Yorkers who are absolutely pissed off at this. I think a lot of eyes are going to be open. I would not be surprised to see a lot of retirements of judges and public officials within the coming months or year, just to again be replaced by Mamdani's picks. Well,
But
the people who control Mamdani to pick, who will replace those judges on those benches.
And did we see something very similar to this when Obama came into office, where once he came in, there was resignations by federal judges across the board, and then he was then able to start stacking the courts during his 2 terms? Or am I misremembering this?
No, that's precisely what he did.
And we're feeling those repercussions now, which is 15, 16 years after his terms have been over. So just multiply that out in New York City now, and that city is going to be a lost cause. Because you can't rectify, if you have injustices and you need to go to the courts to rectify it, but the courts are going to be stacked with those that align with Marxist principles, you're never going to get a fair hearing. And then the court system is hijacked.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I think that's why people need to be paying attention closely to a lot of the litigation which is out there right now, such as the Masri lawsuit, Bashar Masri, which we'll be discussing now. Take that as a baseline, understand that in 20 years, this is probably a case which wouldn't even be brought up within a New York system because it alleges, Islamist activity, terrorist activity, jihadist activity, and that, American citizens were the victims of this. And you'll see right here, Osan Law LLC is a lawyer representing, there's a law firm representing over 200 Israeli American families who were affected by the October 7th massacre. And I think a lot of those points that they made out in their very, very voluminous lawsuit, it's almost 200 pages, actually, just the initial complaint.
Can we flash that lawsuit, Austin? Can we let's show that lawsuit to the folks. There you go. Right, that's the one we're talking about right there. You see that, B?
That is the one. Yes, correct. That is the one. And if you go to page 37 of the document, you'll find was probably the most revealing piece of evidence. And this is a photo of Bashar Masri, who is connected to Grameen Phone via Harvard University. You spoke about Grameen Phone earlier while we were viewing the mind map.
Is that it?
36. Yep, that's him.
Okay.
So there you see it. Now we've got it. That is a photo of Bashar Masri on the left, seated with the architect of the Hamas tunnels, which he was paid for to assemble for the Qassam brigades.
So making tunnels for the Hamas terrorists.
Correct. And this isn't a new revelation. If you go, throughout the rest of the filings, you'll find instances of them knowing that Hamas was using Bashar Masri's facilities, his properties, going even all the way back to 2018 when they began to discover the Hamas tunnels. I mean, the original tunnels were literally built under his properties, which he would use to host both Hamas and Hezbollah officials. People like Yahya Sinwar would visit there. And, it seems that all this has finally just now come to a head. But what's interesting about Masri is that he is the CEO of Patico Holdings. And effectively what this does, we're going to take it a little bit back. The short of it is that Masri, who built the Hamas tunnels under the Gaza industrial estate, was also largely responsible for the reconstruction and the redevelopment of Palestine. And he was a part of a Palestinian governance program, which was actually approved of by the Biden administration, which was going to oversee the redevelopment of Gaza. And with that, if we can go and we can take a look at his partners, if we go to the Master International website, because he is, not only is he, the boss over at Patico Holdings, but he also created Master International. With here, we can kind of see, who some of his partners are. You have the Qatari Royal Trust there. You have Chemonix, which is the largest grantee of USAID funding ever.
Ever.
And you have the
ever.
Yes.
What makes them the number one? What's their deal?
They have their hands in everything, and they've just received the largest funding from USAID, more than any other entity as well. And you'll see this U.S. International Finance Corporation, Development Finance Corporation. Bashar Masri actually sat on the board of that for 3 years. And again, you'll see directly below him, who is that?
Soros.
There you go. George Soros. And then in true twist of irony, you have Conan Nagel there, who are actual Nazis. They actually developed some of the systems which transported victims of the Holocaust. But these were the guys who were tasked with rebuilding Gaza. They were going to be the guys in charge of this redevelopment effort, and at the helm of this was a guy named Samir Hulile. Now, why is he interesting? Well, it's because Samir Hulile worked for the Ramallah branch of the Portland Trust.
Good old Portland Trust. Good old Portland Trust.
Correct. Yes, sir, that is him. Now, why does Portland Trust matter? Well, it's because it was created by Apax Partners co-founder, Sir Ronald Cohen.
Sound familiar? They all run together.
Again, we implore your audience, go back and listen to those older episodes. But if we go down to the Portland Trust website, they openly state their plans. I mean, they illustrate everything.
We're looking at their current projects, right? Is that the one we want?
Well, we could do current projects, and there's also their blueprints for Palestine.
Got that too here, buddy. I got you both.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go here to the blueprint for Palestine, since we're on it right now, just one moment. We can see a lot of the activities which they basically have spent billions in tens of billions actually in investing. And again, this was a plan which was approved under Biden. Just with this alone, 3 billion annual GDP by 2030 was their projection. With these redevelopment plans. And if you go into the projects, you'll see both current projects and landmark projects. You really start to get a taste of just how scaled all this was.
Gaza, UK Palestinian Tech Hub, acceleration of the Palestinian tech ecosystem, pensions, there you are. Where's their funding coming from?
So a lot of it actually comes from the U.S. government.
Oh, you mean
as well
us?
as Brid-
You mean
oh,
us?
yeah, yeah. I mean us, and Apax Partners. There's a reason these guys are, right at the top there.
So let me short summary
If you go-
version. I'm just going to put it my way. Gaza got leveled by Israel. Gaza is going to get rebuilt by the American taxpayer, and then these people are going to siphon off millions of dollars for their own good. I just want to make sure I understand all this.
Billions.
I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me on that. Billions, all on the American taxpayer dime, right?
Yeah, and they are also, they also intend to put a marina in there. They intend to set up microfinancing institutions. Hey, there's that word again.
Yeah.
And they even want to build a marina there. And with this too, they'll also be able to really tap into the LNG shipments, which are coming out of the Levantine Basin, which only recently, it was 2019, where they began to extract and begin ship their LNG shipments, and that too is off the coast of Gaza as well. So
with all this redevelopment of the planning of the redevelopment of Gaza, who's actually going to live there? Are the Palestinians going to be allowed back in there, or are they just kicked out for good, and then this area now is just going to be for who knows?
So the thing about the Palestinians is nobody wants them anywhere. They've tried
Right.
relocation to Egypt, that didn't work. They've tried relocating Gaza, that didn't work. Saddam Hussein was even in negotiations to do a large Palestinian resettlement in Iraq. His son Kudai actually visited Israel multiple times as a delegation for this. The Guardian actually wrote a really, really interesting article on it discussing this. And again, that didn't happen. So chances are they'll probably stay there. They'll probably end up, getting a piece of the pie. But it's going to become, the case of the revolution, the useful idiots who wins after, the rebuilding is done. In this case, it's quite literally a complete rebuild of the system. And whoever controls that will dictate, what the demographics look like. Some people would say, oh, well, Israel wants to go in there as part of the Greater Israel Project, or the Palestinians want to go in there so they can, use that as new economic hub to push against Israel. So I really think it's just a different phase in the continuity of a very long conflict. I don't think we'll ever see it resolved in our lifetime, truly. But you never know, because the landscape for everything's really changing, and it's changing fast.
I hear you. I'm sitting here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm always reminded of the average generation lasts 80 years. Well, we're only one generation and a half removed from the first powered flight, which only lasted 12 seconds in a freaking paper and cloth plane. Now we're having reusable rockets land that can send people to Mars, and we're only 120 years removed from that. Well, 1903, so 123. So think of where we'll be in another 50 years, especially at this rate of progression. And with all of this, all these plans that they have for Gaza and all these redevelopments, these are going to change as well. And some will become far more lucrative than some of the current plans they have right now. So I think what even they have proposed right now is probably just more of a result of bureaucracy and wishful thinking. Yeah, because reality gets a say in everything. And I think, that goes to your point, who's going to control Palestine afterwards? Well, that's going to be just, another dimension of this, ongoing conflict. So I think it'll transition from the streets. If they rebuild it, it'll transition from the streets into boardrooms.
Gotcha. But when I'm sitting here and I'm hearing you discuss this, and I'm just thinking, we didn't do anything to Gaza directly. I don't believe we dropped the bombs. I don't believe we leveled them. But at the end of the day, the American taxpayer is the one that's going to be footing the bill. And then these Muslim extremists are going to be siphoning off billions of dollars for themselves on the back end of it. Kind of makes me pissed. It infuriates me. Is Israel paying for any of this also, or is this just all American capital that somehow became our issue to go fix it?
Well, I mean, a lot of this came from the UN as well, which the UNRWA is a whole new Marbitar, that whole scheme, the jihadist infiltration there into the UN. So no, it's not just the US, but the bulk of it is coming from US taxpayer dollars. And you can tell by who was involved with Massa International. Just look at the names.
Yeah. Yep. I know what you're
Literally,
saying.
U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. Chemonics. I implore anyone to go inside the federal procurement system and just query Chemonics, and you'll see just how many billions and billions and billions of dollars they've gotten in USAID contracts.
So just another example of people who really don't care about the American person. No one cares. No one cares about the money. It comes out of our pockets. We're the ones that are going to see the inflation from it, right? We lose resources when money goes elsewhere. That's the long and short of it, right? The pot's only so big, and when more and more of that pot goes elsewhere, there's less and less for the pot for the people here. And this is all is this not by design, just to bust out possibly the economic structure of America while enriching themselves before the collapse?
Oh, certainly. I mean, that's certainly an argument one could make. And I think, part of this is also steeped in, the public's perception of, say like these forever wars, oil wars, whatever you want to call it. I would argue that those have now been, that model of fighting a war against, using conventional force to fight an asymmetrical force such as the jihadists, the mujahideen, whatever, al-Qaeda. I would say that model is largely, been exposed as a failure now. There's no more justification for forever wars. So I think they got what they could out of it, in particular, the Bush family, the Cheneys. Now I think we're going to see some of the leftists adopting some of like those same foreign policy, habits, that we have to, intervene here, a little bit of intervention here. I think we're probably going to see a lot more justification of intervention coming from the left than we probably have ever seen before, because again, they're it's anti-Trump, because he's doing these very concise campaigns. He's Venezuela within a couple hours. He hasn't committed a full force to Iran. I would argue he's actually been very successful so far in taking out the Iranian regime, which does not represent the Iranian people, the Persian people. There's a reason the IRGC flag is written in Arabic as opposed to Persian. So just some food for thought.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And then you brought up Iran, so I'm just going to ask this one. Are we going to pay to rebuild Iran also after we just bomb the shit out of them? Is that also going to be coming on the American taxpayer dime? We pay for the war and then we pay to rebuild after the war? That's kind of how it goes, isn't it?
So I wouldn't really compare Iran to Palestine. Iran's pretty much a lot of their infrastructure is still intact, and they also have a crap ton of heavy crude there as well. Um, don't get me started on the refinement process and how that works for it. Who's going to benefit from that? I think that's a whole nother discussion. But a lot of Iran's infrastructure is still largely intact. I mean, they could literally um, probably get the internet back online within a few weeks, if that. And sure, some of the refineries have been hit, but you know, largely a lot of it's still intact. Like their electrical grid, yeah, it got hit some, but not really. I mean, they're not really targeting the infrastructure like the infrastructure in Palestine um, has been targeted. So I wouldn't really compare, apples to oranges here, but um, there's going to be a U.S. interest in Iran. There's going to be an economic interest in it, especially with Karg Island and what they do out there. So again, what we plan for right now is not going to be what will happen in the future. So I mean, there's about a million different possibilities this could go. Europe could just decide, okay, we're going to let Russia turn the gas back on, and that'll probably make a lot of Europeans happy because their gas bills are so high right now. But there's just, you never know, man. The world is a very anarchic place. There's no grand scheme. It's just very transactional. And that's probably the one thing I will agree with Obama on, is that that's probably far scarier for people to imagine than, believing that the world is controlled by like some, black robed cabal sitting, in this, dungeon from under the temple of Satan, calling all the shots. So
I think we might have some viewers that disagree with that. I think there would be some people that'd be like, nope, there is a room of black coat, cloak, dagger people innocent underneath ground worship. I guarantee there's people that believe that. I didn't believe that up until about 2 years ago, but I believe there are definitely puppeteers behind the scenes. There is no way our leaders are this stupid and this inept to get us into the positions we're in. There's no way.
A lot of them are compromised, and
right. So who compromises them? Who's got them compromised? Puppeteers.
But what I'm saying is these puppeteers, they're not some just obscure kind of face. They're you can find them in the Edgar database. You can find them on incorporation documents. These people are not really in hiding. I mean, Sir Ronald Cohen.
Yeah.
People always talk about the Rothschilds. Who is he business partners with over at the Partners Fund? Sir Jacob Rothschild. Who's dead now.
Yeah, so that family name lives on. Those principles live on from them, do they not?
Yeah. Well, certainly some of the dollar amounts do, but they're one of the few. They're one of those rare cases where generational wealth didn't completely dissipate after 3 or 4 generations.
They've actually made more. They didn't lose it, that's impressive.
I mean, they've. I wouldn't say they've made more. I mean, they lost a lot, especially in 2008. But I mean, again, I think we're getting off track here from what we were discussing with Palestine and Gaza. We've definitely gotten off script for what we have planned for the show today, and talking about some more like these terrorist connections to this. But there's always an opportunistic angle to everything. And, again, these people are transactional. They'll connive with anyone to do anything, even if it, may screw over, someone else who they would consider within, this, I guess, cabal, as people would say it. But I think we're really, times are changing now because information is now so accessible. Literally, billions of people can be made aware of something within, a millisecond.
Yeah, you just got to make that right clip that goes viral, that right fact that just hits people the right way, that resonates, and boom, million views in 2 hours. I'm with you on that. I agree with you on that 100%.
I mean, you're going from, six corporations who controlled, what the man in the box said for decades as how people got their information, to now you're getting it from, the square in your hands or in front of your face. And, arguably something probably even more invasive within the not too distant future. That again, going into, the technotronic era, as Mika's daddy would say. So, but if we can, let's try and get back on track here, with Pataco and Monster
Pataco
International.
Holdings. Yep.
Because and this is very interesting, and it kind of goes to your point, who are the puppet masters, the same guys who conveniently funded a lot of the conflict to destroy, like that whole area geographically, are also conveniently the same ones who now stand to make a killing off of it when they are. So again, and unfortunately, the American taxpayer is going to be hit with a lot of those costs. Now, I will say this: I hope that that we can create something, that something is created, not us, not the U.S., but that something is created there, something that's stable. And I would implore the U.S. administration to look at creating a coalition of the willing, so to speak, for the Arab states, specifically through, the Arab League or the Gulf Coast Council, through their neighbors, who they all bomb, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Who have more of a stake in, the outcome of both Iran and Palestine. Not only like geographically and economically, but also like at a cultural level. And I think you're probably gonna, you've already started to see a lot of these radical jihadist entities, being offshored into, Western countries now. And a lot of these Arab leaders, this was, why they were so strict on it to a degree, within their own countries, specifically the UAE. Qatar, not so much. Qatar is actually very, very much financially involved with Pataco. As a matter of fact, Bashar Masri.
We got their board of directors. Let's put it up.
Yep.
Right, yep. Patago board of directors. There you go.
Yep.
There's Bashar Masri right on top. And who is that? His son next to him, his brother, who's Sabi?
Yeah,
Master?
It's his brother. It's his brother who's actually arguably even worth more. And that's his son as well.
Oh, below him.
Yeah.
Hissam Masri. Wow. Yeah. Family-led business.
And if you go into some of their other filings, you'll find links to the Makati family, which is the Lebanese PM, who's a big Hezbollah fan. And remember, Samir Hulile, who worked for Sir Ronald Cohen at Ramallah Bank, was also the cabinet secretary for the Palestinian Authority. in the mid 2000s. So he himself is very well connected, and he himself actually owns a business with the Makati family, jointly owns a business with the Makati family, which is registered in Jordan. And, I think the Makati family in one group is, probably a segment for another day. They're on the mind map, by the way, connected in with Iran cell in Grameen. But basically, what I wanted to highlight here with Patico is, in this Gaza redevelopment, is that I hope people follow this lawsuit closely. I think there's going to be a lot of information revealed within it. I think it's going to be dragged out over time. I think more people will be added to it, probably within the U.S. as well, as more information becomes publicly available. And there's a definite dynamic here. Bashar Masri was even alleged to have played both sides of the fence politically. He allegedly flew around one of the advisors to Trump's envoy on his aircraft to do a hostage exchange. And he was allegedly a critical part of this within the Trump administration with this hostage exchange. But on the same token, Samir Hulile, his mouthpiece, his puppet, who they had put in there to be the governor of Palestine, was the guy who actually physically walked into the Biden White House and walked out with Biden's blessing to effectuate this program, which would have very handsomely rewarded a lot of the friends, a lot of the mega donors for the Democrat Party. Specifically, again, Alan Patrickoff and Sir Ronald Cohen. So I think when you think about it like that, it's really easy to kind of see it now, and how these people kind of operate. Again, they're not operating in the shadows. They're very transparent about it. Just people get distracted. People have a tendency to want to just, cognitive bias to, reaffirm their position as opposed to be introduced to new, possibly even information which is contrary to their opinion on something. So I think if people just pay attention to it, just look at something objectively and think critically. I mean, Jesus, man, there are so many people who just, they see something in that millisecond, that cognitive bias kicks in, and they just, bam, hit that like button, and retweet it, spread it out to like a million other people, without asking, where's the information coming from? What's the source of the information? Is it AI? For instance, one of the mainstream news channels, I'm not going to say which one, just literally aired an AI propaganda video, which again came from Mayor News, of the Iranians allegedly boarding another tanker vessel, Iranian Special Forces. And it was the most AI thing I've ever seen. And they put this up on a mainstream channel. And so this is where we're at. And I'm not, going to say I have the answers for everything, but if you just ask the question that I just alluded to, I think you'll get a lot of answers revealed. And I'm going to closely continue watching this Gaza situation, especially this lawsuit, Bashar Masri lawsuit, and all those involved with it, because while it may not be timely, for instance, right now there are still ongoing 9/11 lawsuits, which are still being heard 25 years later, a quarter of a century later. So, but I think, I think this is really going to have some effects downwind politically. And I do think that the media will probably try and keep it out of the papers as much as possible. But, for Mamdani, these are the people who he was ordered to put into position, ordered by the likes of ICNA. There's a reason half of his cabinet are ICNA. He is a puppet for Ali Najmi, who created the Muslim Democratic Club of New York. He is a product of their environment. He is a product of their training and their conditioning of him. And he is one of many, and they are going to come in at the local level, and they are going to propagate the state level, and then they will move at the federal level.
And he already he moved the needle in New York already. He got Hochul to agree to tax second homes that are worth more than $5 million. So he's starting it.
Yeah, and that's probably going to piss off the rest of New York, and then we're going to really begin to see a lot of fracturing. I think a lot of these. I think we're about to see Democratic strongholds become more Democratic strongholds, but the jihadists are very smart. They targeted red states. Pure Hands, one of the entities I was looking at, which ended up shelling out more than $200 million in 2024 alone through charities to al-Qaeda in Yemen. It's literally run by a dude named Salah Bates. He has an anglicized name, whose brother was an al-Qaeda Arabian Peninsula leader who was drone bombed. And, this guy gets, hundreds of millions of dollars a year from the U.S., and they're filed under 501c3 religious exemption donations. So they don't even have to declare where their donors come from because they're funneling it through the mosques. Same as churches, did for decades. So they're essentially using our own systems against us now. They've learned to adapt to them, and
their intent is different. Their intent is different than what the system was founded on.
They're registered out of Texas. CARE was.
We know CARE
out of Texas.
We know CARE. Mm-hmm. We know CARE.
Product of they were initially registered in Texas as well. The Muslim Students Association was, or ICNA actually too, for that matter, were incorporated in Florida actually. Now, granted, those were under Democratic leadership, administrations, but right. They're still incorporated there to this day. And, it's become like this Republican stronghold now, but yet you still have like all these jihadists going there. Like, I can give you the address in Sac City, Texas for, this organization, which also runs, this dude in Sac City, Texas, Dallas, we're outside Dallas, Fort Worth. He owns a coffee shop in Karachi, Pakistan, which ships their coffee directly from the province in Yemen called Rema. Now, what does that really sound like to you? Precisely. Has anyone looked at this?
No.
Do people know about it? No, most people don't even know where Karachi is on a map.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what. That guy, he lives in the Metroplex. He actually lives between Dearborn and Dallas as well. Dearborn, just give it to Canada at this point.
No argument here. It's so hostile how they use our own system against us, and we don't stand up to shut it down. That's what I've noticed, is that they have learned to use our system against us, our language, our laws, our courts, against our own self-interests. And it sucks.
And this is how they co-opted the left. See, the left is arrogant, but they don't have any type of moral baseline. They think they do, they assume they do, but they don't. And so this makes them very malleable when it comes to, you know, people who actually do, people like, you know, radical jihadists, say what you want, but they actually, and it, you know, they have a baseline that exists outside of, you know, their own subjective interpretation of, you know, culture, laws, marks, whatever. You know, they have so much books and literature and like such a rigid training program. It's an occult,
It is.
really.
It is. It's their
And
religion. They have nothing else. That's what they hold up above everything else is their Marxist principles. And just a real short one, it's so blatantly obvious in your face. If you go to a public school and you talk about Christmas or your faith, you're in hot water. But if you go during Ramadan, Muslim students are encouraged to go to prayer rooms. They get Ramadan meals sent home with them because they fast during the day. And leftists are like, yes, that is what our society is supposed to do. And at the same time, the left say, yes, you shouldn't be talking about Christianity in school. That's not fair. But yet they don't understand that you need to keep all religions separate from church and state, not just keep Christianity out. You keep Islam out. You keep Judaism out. You keep Hinduism out, right? But they don't see it that way. They see it as a way of subverting what America was founded on, which is Christianity. And they want to target Christianity through the court systems. And that's what they've done.
well, and you know, they did a lot of this through the church too, as well. Specifically, if you go back to Pope Paul VI and you know, Montini, who was actually became very good friends by his own admission. He became very good friends with Saul Alinsky. And this is really when you start to see a lot of like the more contemporary liberal ideology begin to flow within the Catholic Church, and almost all of like these interfaith organizations now, like the International Religious Freedom Roundtable, they're almost entirely controlled by the jihadists now. And that's just a point of fact. A lot of them come from Jamaat-e-Islami, you know, the South Asian side. They have this whole ISI apparatus, which assists them. They get a lot of Qatari funding. And let me tell you something, Qatar, they have no problem funding both sides. You know, it's the strategy attention. It's, you know, conflict is profitable for these people. So I don't have any real faith, you know, kind of as a sidebar here, I don't have any real faith that Asim Munir and Pakistan are negotiating in confidence. I think they are cutting deals and trying to save face. But anyways, I digress. Yeah, I think, you know, we pretty much covered all the ground today. We didn't really stick to the script that much, but
we made it work.
I think it was a very insightful discussion, and I'm going to be following it, keeping tabs on it, and you know, we'll see what comes. Bashar Masri quit his post at Harvard. He was on the Dean's Council, and you know, he is very close to a lot of very powerful people. So we'll see what comes of that. But,
and just as that, just being on the board at Harvard, just like pow, insertion.
Yeah, just like, you know, the guys who created Grameen phone under Muhammad Yunus, which, you know, has been implicated in terrorist activity as well. You know, they're literally faculty at Harvard as well. Like, they're literally fellows at Harvard as well.
Yep.
So
the takeover our education system, another problem. There's problems everywhere, dude. It is every which way. But we just got to keep talking about it, spreading the word. People just got to become more and more aware.
Yeah, man. And, you know, I implore people to also go back and listen to, you know, our Oxford College of Islamic Studies segment with Huma Abedin and, you know, her family, because they have done irreparable damage to the U.S. as well. So, you know, again, go back, listen to those earlier episodes, and, you know, a lot of that information and that network will make this a lot more consumable.
All true. The more you listen, the more you know, the more you pay attention, the easier the dots get to connect. They do. Well, B, thank you so much. Audience, look forward to seeing you again. We will be airing this over the next week or two, and then we'll be back again doing some more work with B. So thank you all for tuning in. Class dismissed.